News I'd like to announce and just read a brief thing here. It's the city of Winona received a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting, and it's been awarded to the city of Winona by the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada for its comprehensive annual financial report. The certificate of achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. An award of financial reporting achievement has been awarded to the individual, department, or agency designated by the government as primarily responsible for preparing the award-winning CAFR. This has been presented to the City of Winona Finance Department. The CAFR has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, including demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the CAFR. The GFOA is a nonprofit professional association serving approximately 17,500 government finance professionals with offices in Chicago, Illinois, and Washington, D.C. Congratulations to our finance director and her department for a job well done. And just want to mention too, the 10 Days of Giving is going on as we speak. Officially kicked off this morning at Merchants Bank, who's been spearheading this effort for the past 25 years, benefiting our volunteer services who've been around for 40 years. They have set some larger goals this year, which I'm sure that they'll meet with the generosity of this community. They're looking for food items, but especially they're looking for money as well. The money they get for every dollar, it's equal to 2 pounds of food, so they can make those dollars stretch all year long. We have a need in this community, not just the 10 days of December when this drive goes on, but all year long. And along that line, the holiday train will be in Winona, all lit up on December 11th, and that's part of the 10 Days of Giving. And the CP rail train will pull into our historic depot at 5 o'clock, and they will have entertainment. And if you haven't been there and seen it, it's well worth going. It's quite a sight. And I'd also like to thank the Light Up Winona committee, the Chamber of Commerce, and the young professionals and their sponsors for lighting up Lake Park Lodge this evening at 5:30, and some work they did down in Central Park, ultimately leading to a corridor from Lake Winona down to Levy Park eventually. So good job there too. And that's all I have, and that's the city manager if she has anything.
No comments.
Okay, roll call.
Mayor Peterson.
Here.
Councilman Thurley.
Here.
Craig.
Here.
Alexander. Here. Iden.
Here.
Borzakowski.
Here.
Double.
Here.
Under the required public meetings, item 2.1 is the 2014 proposed property tax levy and proposed budget.
And I'll ask our city manager to start out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. You have before you the information concerning the 2014 net tax levy. If the council will remember, the city manager had made a proposed budget or a recommended budget to the council. They've reviewed that budget. As a result of that, they've done a tentative approval of the budget, and you have before you this evening that proposed levy and budget for 2014. The net tax levy for the city is $5,966,055, which represents a decrease of 0.9% from the 2013 net tax levy. If you include the Port Authority, which technically you do not need to in the discussion of the 2014 levy, but the Port Authority does make a levy, and that levy is proposed to be $548,290 for 2014, for a total tax levy of the city and the Port Authority of $6,514,345, representing a 1.4% decrease together of the 2014 tax levy. I think the important thing to understand is the budget as it was proposed and is before you does a number of things. First of all, it continues the operations of the city for all departments. It undertakes some projects that we haven't taken in the past, and some extremely large projects which we're looking to undertake here, starting in 2014. Those larger projects include the airport improvements of $13 million, $13.5 million, of which our local match is $1.2 million. More importantly, we're going to undertake a city street reconstruction project, which we have not done for a number of years, that has been proposed but has been taken off of our budget because we haven't had the revenue stream to do those projects. So we're looking at $1 million of street projects next year. We anticipate we'll be able to do about 50 blocks of street, mill and overlay, correcting those potholes that people call us frequently and complain about. We'll be able to make some significant improvements in our residential streets. And we'll be able to rebuild Franklin Street from Broadway to Howard, continuing the project that was undertaken this year. So we do have some significant large infrastructure projects. In addition, we have some capital equipment purchases that are needed to continue to allow our departments to operate. Things such as the fire department turnout gear, the park maintenance department gets a tower truck. We're looking to replace 2 transit buses. So we are doing some capital improvements in addition to some significant infrastructure projects. So the 2014 budget continues the operations of the city and adds some important capital projects which we haven't been able to do. Most specifically, the $1 million to be spent on residential street reconstruction. Just to clarify, there was a comment in the local news media about the park maintenance budget being reduced by a large number, about $464,000 from 2013 to 2014. That is reflected in the capital projects that were done in 2013, and specifically the bike path. That $534,000 was in the park maintenance budget for 2013. So that would be a significant difference and a reduction for 2014. In addition, the sales tax exemption for local government has been estimated to be a savings of about $85,000 in 2014. And budgets were reduced by the city manager and the finance director working with the departments to reflect this change in savings in the sales tax exemption that the city will receive in 2014. So with that, I think you can ask the audience if they have any comments on the budget.
This is not a public hearing, but a public meeting, and I'll ask if anybody in the audience is here with questions or would like to comment about the proposed property tax levy. I'll ask again if anybody would like to speak regarding the proposed property tax levy. One final time, anybody here to speak about the proposed property tax levy? All right.
Mr. Mayor, the council is not being asked to take any action tonight on the proposed budget, but will be asked to take action and approve it on December 16th at their next meeting.
Moving to item 3.1, the request to hold the Live at the Levee event on Saturday, December 21st.
I'd move to approve the attached resolution.
I would second that.
Motion by Michelle, seconded by Pam. Is anybody here from the event that would like to maybe just say a few words about what the plans are? Maybe not. State your name.
Bill Kitchen.
All right.
It's nice to be back. I think that it's very similar to what we did last time, where we had 850 people come down to the levee. We're doing music from noon until 8. It's going to be a bluegrass Christmas theme. We've got String Ties doing their special event. That's going to be the end of the night, or the beginning of the night for everybody else. And then food and big tent heated on the levee. It should be a festive event. So if there's any questions, I hope that we do have our insurance. So everything is copacetic and ready to go.
All right, thank you, Al.
Thank you. Will, thank you, and thank the group for bringing this to Winona in interesting weather times. I do have a question about the consumption of alcoholic beverages. Would they be the same area that was used in the past for events like that?
It'll be in the tent.
In the tent?
In the tent, yeah. So everything will be corralled, and we'll have bands for, people who are old enough to consume. And if you don't have a band, you can't obviously obtain any alcohol.
Okay,
We'll monitor it very closely.
good, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Well, I want to just thank you for your support. I mean, we really appreciate it. We hope to do many more of these in 2014.
Well, we thank you and your committee.
All right, thank you.
We'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 3.2 is the update on the Main Street program.
Our representative is Michelle, so go ahead, Michelle.
I wasn't here the week after the Progressive dinner, but I wanted to give a special thank you to the city staff. I heard so many wonderful comments about having the library steps open to make it accessible, people that have never used the front entrance to the library. And the Masonic Temple was fantastic. I mean, the other locations were great too, but I'm focusing on the city. I thought they were pleasant locations. The staff was easy to work with. They had all these special things set out for people, which made it more interesting. We did raise more than we needed, so that was fantastic for our first fundraiser, and I think we're already planning for next year, and we already have gotten a ton of ideas from that group on where they would like to have the dinner next year, so we're working on that. The holiday window walk is up and going. 27 businesses are participating this year, and hopefully every year we'll see an increase in the amount of decorations downtown as part of this event. Actually, now that the Live at the Levee has been approved, that is where the winners will be announced, down at the Live at the Levee on December 21st, so there'll be public voting. We are using the building rendering project on the Urinology building. They have applied through the Main Street program to look at restoring it to its historic, or as historic as we can make it front, taking down the facade and looking at restructuring that. And she's also presented, I believe, the process in writing for her. So if any other business owners want to participate in that type of activity, they know what the process is going to be like. Carlos's committee is still moving forward on the SMIF grant to try to bring some new business downtown, which is our focus. And that application was submitted, I believe, last week or right before Thanksgiving. So we'll be waiting to hear back from that. And the best part about that for me is it's a large group of Winonans, not necessarily all downtown or on the Main Street committee, but just in general from the community at large, fulfilling, I don't know, is it 20 different roles? 19 different type of community personnel will be helping determine who will win that grant money. And then I think, we have some beautification projects coming up in the spring and summer, and so when we come back to that quarter, once we get past the snow, I'll talk about those as well. But that's what we're doing in Main Street.
Thanks for the update.
Sure.
Item 3.3 is the Women's Resource Center Gala sign request for Wyndham Park for January 27th through February 10th.
Move to approve that request.
Second.
Motion by George, seconded by Michelle. Any comments?
Just a
Al?
comment, I think council members have asked city staff to review this whole process, and I'm just kind of curious where city staff is at, because if we grant this, then that might impact those particular recommendations from city staff. I'd ask our manager to comment on that.
Mayor and council, we will be back at the next meeting with some options that staff has recently put together on this specific issue. And it may impact not only this request, but all the future requests, so.
Well, do you think it would be prudent to postpone this request until our next meeting? At that time, we can then address it in light of staff recommendations. That would be I would make an amendment to delay this until our next meeting, at which time we can then fully decide, given staff recommendations, for the status of the signage, especially at Wyndham Park.
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on an amendment to hold off on Chris?
I think it would just be a main motion to postpone as opposed to amendment. So
Okay.
it would supersede the present motion, so if this motion passes, the former motion just doesn't.
fine. I then motion for a postponement.
Well, I'll second it. Could I just withdraw my motion, providing that the second agrees?
If that's what you would like to do.
I can do that,
Well, this gives direction. I mean, it
yeah.
tells the requester that we're postponing it for these reasons.
Yeah, I will withdraw my motion that was made for approval of the sign.
I'm okay with that.
That's fine too.
So,
So we're going to take action.
nothing to vote on?
Right.
Okay.
Just wait for staff recommendation and then readdress it.
All right.
We have a lot of things to have to vote on here.
Yes.
Under the unfinished business, item 4.1 is the air monitoring recommendation.
I'd move to approve the recommendation from staff that we accept the state's, I'm not really sure how to word that, but
State offer. of
thank you, yes,
assistance.
offer.
I would
Second.
second that.
Okay, we'll let Paul second it. I think I heard him first. Discussion?
Just a
Yeah.
comment I've had, a lot of people email me and contact me on this issue, as probably all of us have on council, and I think this is the prudent thing to do, and we're looking forward to getting the information that is state approved, and we can move forward with any decisions we need to make after that.
This recommendation comes from the Planning Commission, and
Right.
I'm very
Thank them
pleased
for
that
that.
they've made that recommendation to us. This is something we've talked about for a long time, and it's certainly something that would be beneficial to have baseline information, so. Pam?
Yes, I'm all for this. I do have a question, though, regarding the other recommendations that were made by the Environmental Quality Committee and passed to the Planning Commission. I don't know what the process was there, or if the Planning Commission just decided they were not interested in those final recommendations, or I'd be interested to know.
Mayor and Council, the Planning Commission's recommendation was only pertaining to the resolution that's part of your packets, and that resolution would basically be acceptance of the proposal for the monitoring as proposed by the MPCA.
Okay, the other air monitoring recommendations made by the Environmental Quality Committee pertain to something, the city of Winona should make a formal request to MPCA for an air emissions risk analysis and community air improvement project. Is that in here somewhere? Is this part of what we're doing tonight, or is that, were they recommending something completely different?
Their recommendation is only pertaining to what the MPCA proposed. The full set of the Citizens Environmental Quality Committee's recommendations was considered by the Planning Commission in their review of this topic, but in forwarding it to Council, their recommendation is to adopt what was proposed by the MPCA.
Okay, is there any plan to return to some of these researched recommendations by the Environmental Quality Committee?
There could be, if that's something that council desires. I will say that the Planning Commission did take that into consideration. Also, they took into consideration the communication with the PCA and the input from the representatives when they came down to Winona to talk about their plans for air quality monitoring and how they approach it at the state level.
Okay, okay.
Other comments, questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Under new business, item 5.1 is to renew the Safe Ride Agreement with Winona State and St. Mary's for 2014.
Move to approve the agreement.
Second.
For 2014.
George, seconded by Michelle. Discussion?
Just a curiosity question about how many riders on average has this program carried over the 11-year history of it?
Mayor and Council, I don't have over that full time frame, but within the last year, the average is about 280 riders per night.
Per night? Oh, my. That's, sounds like it's a good program then, well needed.
I was wondering why they don't do it on Thursday nights. Isn't Thursday night a big bar night?
Thursdays.
Mayor and council, when the program started, we did initially have 3 nights. And because the program is funded through St. Mary's and Winona State with a small portion paid for by the transit grant, the colleges determined that they did not wish to encourage people to use the system on Thursday nights. So they didn't want to fund Thursday night. So they only pay for the Friday and Saturday nights. If we wish to add Thursday, it would be at the city's cost or at the grant fund.
Mayor, I do have another question on the agreement. On page 6 of the agreement, in the witness whereof section, it indicates Kurt Lohide as a signatory. I think Mr. Lohide has since left the
Happily
university.
residing in Napa Valley.
Yes, when we sent that draft out, we did get that correction back from
Oh,
Winona State.
it is
but we
correct,
didn't,
okay. It'll be corrected then on the
yeah,
final document.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.2 is to revise the Winona Transit Green Route beginning January 6th.
I'd move to approve the change to the green east route.
I'll second
Motion
that.
by Michelle, second by Jerry. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 5.3 is the cooperative purchase agreement.
I would move the attached resolution to cooperate with the cooperative purchase agreement.
Second.
Motion by George, seconded by Michelle. Discussion?
Is there any
Al?
cost associated with this participation?
Keith?
Mayor and council, there's no direct cost to the city. Of course, they're making money someplace. They are charging to the suppliers and the vendors.
Okay, so we come out ahead and really it's probably not going to,
Yeah, because it's again a
Process
volume.
compared.
They're doing this in all 50 states. There's a volume discount in doing that, but there's no charge to the city.
good, thank you.
Thank you. George?
Just a question, Keith, what all can be bought through this agreement?
Lots of things, but I don't have a list by any means, but we look at it for the larger items that are really hard to specify and get competitive bids on it. They go through that process for us. It's similar to the state contract, and in actuality, we'll probably compare both the state contract and this on a lot of items and just see which is the better deal and which gives us the specific equipment we're looking for. And I don't know how small of pieces of equipment it gets into. I'm just not that familiar with it. There are hundreds of entities in Minnesota that are already using this.
Just another comment on the program, I guess, I think I know what George is getting at, and I think that's to support our local businesses as much as we can, so, you know, yes, we're doing this, but I think this council has always traditionally supported local businesses when it's cost efficient for the city.
Staff fully understands that and agrees.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Item 7.1 is council concerns.
George, we'll start with you tonight.
Okay, thank you. Keith, just a couple of items. A couple of years back, I know you and I and Jerry at the time was mayor, we met with some gentleman that was kind of monitoring street lights or things. Is that program, or is this individual still doing that? And then what is the proper, or what's a good procedure for residents to call if they have a street lamp? I know they call us in council, we turn it in, but is there something they can do if they don't happen to contact one of the council members?
Great question. Yes, a couple years ago, we had an arrangement with a gentleman here in town who, for a finder's fee, every time he found a street light, he would report it to us, and then we'd pay him for doing that. Did that for a couple of years. It really, it was very beneficial, but it was not cost effective because the public can easily report these streetlights either to us or directly to Excel. And I have a number on that. The phone number for doing that would be 1-800-960-6235 or excelenergy.com. You can do it both online or by the 800 phone number. I have that in my cell phone. But again, we'll gladly report it if the public wants to call to us, but they certainly can do it directly to Excel themselves. That's all we do, is we call the same number.
Okay, I know when I get a call on the light, I just call Tara, and then she, calls it in, so.
If that works.
And then one other thing, what is any progress or the status report as far as that methane gas burner?
We entered into a one-year arrangement for them to continue monitoring the progress, monitoring the savings on that. We're in the middle of doing that now. It's not time for a report on that. At some point, we'll get a report back from McKinstry showing what the ongoing savings are. But the system's running well. It's doing what it's supposed to now. Now we'll just get the proof through a report within the next 6 months or so.
Okay, all right, thank you. I want to congratulate Stuart Shaw on his honor. I read in the newspaper today, but I see he has left, so. I would like to send out birthday greetings to my granddaughter, Sydney Bannicky, who turned lucky 13 yesterday, so be an interesting time now as she proceeds through the teen years. So I wish her well with all that, and she'll do well. So happy birthday to my granddaughter, Sydney. And I'd just like to pass on a couple of condolences, a couple of co-workers of mine, retired co-workers. First to David Chipieski, who passed away late last week. David was a very, very caring man. Didn't care for sports, but he liked to hunt. And as he retired young out of Peerless Chain with health problems, and since then struggled with that. So condolences to his brother Dale and his sister as they begin the healing process on David's passing. And also to another co-worker of mine, a good friend of mine as well too, Jerry Cada, who passed away again this past weekend. Jerry retired from Peerless Chain Company. I worked side by side with him for many, many years, and just simply a terrific guy. He was a caring man. He cared and believed in his family, believed in his religion, and believed in always helping someone out to try to make someone's life better. And he certainly was a great individual. To his wife, Peg, to their children, to their grandchildren, heartfelt sympathy to the family as they continue with their healing process through this joyous time of year, which always, there's sorrow is always around us, so thank you.
Ann?
Yes, I'm concerned, my council concern tonight is about the pedestrians crossing Broadway. Last week, a woman was hit and run accident. 75-year-old was crossing to church about Liberty or Kansas, crossing
Liberty.
Broadway, and was hit there. I haven't heard anything about the police investigation, knowing if anyone has been caught for that. But my concern is more about the safety of crossing Broadway. When I was running for this office, I heard frequently from people who were terrified to cross Broadway at different times of the day and night. And the city has installed a few of those stand-up pedestrian crossing signs further down on Broadway. And what I would like to know is, can we look into the possibility of doing that, extending that idea a little bit further? As people leave the congested inside of the city and they start heading for Mankato, I think they speed up. It's a throughway. That's natural. But I'd like to find some way of reminding people that this is that there are pedestrians likely to be crossing. So I guess I'm requesting that staff take a look at those safety issues and see what might be appropriate given the situation. Thanks.
Thank you. Paul?
I would just like to remind people that we have zoning regulations which restrict certain home-based businesses and/or signing in our easements, and that they do not own the property right up to the edge of the blacktop. and that they need to apply for signs if they want signs, and they may or may not be approved. And also to remind bicycles that they are to be in the street and not on the sidewalk, and they do not have the same right-of-way that pedestrians do. I happened to see on Main Street the other day a bicyclist who was very irritated that the car didn't stop for them and gave the driver the finger. And so I would remind them that they may, to the right person, become a hood ornament, and they need to be cognizant of that.
Thank you. Michelle?
Pam, you and I share the same council concern. St. Martin's is my home church, and in the last 20 years, 9 or 10 people have been seriously injured or killed at that intersection. And the real issue comes, I think it's twofold. There are people going to church and confirmation at night. It's generally a fall, winter incidents. And then so you have students and seniors crossing there, and then the light hasn't worked there for some time. It flicks on and then goes off, and so it's a very dark intersection. And people are dressed in navy blue coats going to church, and so they tend to get hit. My grandmother was hit there 20 years ago. And I've heard from that pastor and other staff members that it's an ongoing concern for them. They're not asking for a stop sign, but they, again, did notice the pedestrian markers closer to campus because there's a lot of foot traffic, and they didn't know what the best option might be there, but they really would like to not have another church member run down on Liberty Street and Broadway. And I have, having crossed it myself, it's not such a big deal during the day. It's always at that dusk to evening. It's a little intimidating because people are speeding up and they pass behind and then they're there, and the elderly can't get out of the way. So again, it's just the same concern that you have. I'm a little concerned about that intersection. I'm not saying a stop sign is the best option for Broadway, but something maybe that we can do. I think they've even tried crossing guards, and sure, when they're out there, it seems to help a little bit, but it's not something they can keep on going because you have to have volunteers. So.
Thank you. Jerry?
Kind of this, related to the same thing, I guess, but not really pedestrians, because that's going to be a little more difficult to handle. This one might be something that the police can actually take care of. If you could please talk to them. Runners on Broadway, we've got an entire city and parks to run on. Why pick Broadway? And this is, I've seen more and more people running on Broadway. As a matter of fact, one was running tonight, of all times, to be running on Broadway tonight. And so we've all seen it. That would be almost a case-by-case basis where I'm sure if a police officer saw them, just pull them over. And I don't think we can make Broadway illegal, but certainly if an officer of the law would tell a jogger to move it, south of the street from this point forward, so if they could. I'm seeing more and more of it. They're out there working out, but you're going to die fit. But it sank in. It was actually kind of fun. The veterans of Winona County have had one of the best friends in the entire United States in Valerie Evenson. She has been looking out for their best interests since 1977. Steve's been over there. They made a great team. Nothing against Steve, but really Val was really doing just an outstanding job, going the extra mile all the time. Today was her last day from Winona County. So all the best wishes to Val. Steve, you better get a heck of a replacement for her. She's got huge shoes to fill.
Thank you. Al?
Thank you. I share Councilman Double's concern about cyclists. I think I mention a few council concerns ago about that. And I was contacted by a cyclist who was concerned as well. I made a statement that I hadn't really observed cyclists who obeyed stop signs when they were cycling, and since then, I really have. I've noticed an improvement in cyclists observing those rules, signaling their turns, stopping at stop signs, and I really appreciate the fact that there are those that are doing that kind of thing. Now, I also understand the state law that allows cyclists to use the sidewalks when they do cross intersections. And when they are in the sidewalk crossing the intersection, it's my understanding, they do have the same rights as a pedestrian, believe it or not. It doesn't make sense in my mind, but I believe that's the state law.
I thought they had to be dismounted.
So, well, no, they don't have to be dismounted either. But they do have to stop like a pedestrian and wait for traffic to give them the right of way to cross the street. But they have to be on the sidewalk. If they're in the street, they're treated like any other vehicle. They have to obey the stop signs and observe the right time to cross the street like any vehicle would. But if they're on the sidewalk, and that's, to me, the quirky little part of the state law that leads to a lot of confusion. They do have those rights, except in downtown areas, but that's another story, because we can't, and I think we have disallowed bicyclists in our downtown area. So that's my response to your Councilman Dulles. I want to wish my aunt Phyllis Thurley an early birthday. She lived in the Winona community for many, many years with Uncle Fred, and she now, my uncle passed away, but she's now in Florida, and December 5th is, and will be, her 98th birthday. So I want to wish her a very happy birthday as well. And I've heard that one of the folks that I worked with at KW10 Radio many years ago suffered a significant medical issue last Wednesday and is now seriously ill. And I am hoping for the best outcome for Bonnie Merkowitz and her family. And that was just news posted just today. Also sympathy to the family of Sandra Evanson, who passed away on Saturday. I believe she's the wife of Don Evanson of Minnesota City, so sympathy to the Evanson family. And those are my comments tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Under the consent agenda, there are 3 items: approval of minutes from November 18th, the final adoption of an ordinance to rezone 1670 West 5th Street, and a claim against the city by Winona Health for Sharon Posance.
Move to approve the consent item.
Motion by Al, seconded by Michelle. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries.
Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Somebody says no.
I tried to talk long.
If you need to make